One of the more underrated connections is the connection between the serratus anterior and the oblique muscles, or the core. This connection can help us facilitate either improved serratus anterior function or improved core control. And most of the time when you're doing one of these exercises, both. In fact, I tell my athletes it's impossible to work on core stability exercises without integrating the serratus anterior and the upper extremity. One of the exercises I love to do for this specifically is a dumbbell front rack hold. The beautiful thing about the front rack holds is that you can utilize this in many different variations to regress, progress, and just change intention on the exercise, right? Change fulcrums, change vectors. And whenever we do that, we just, again, get different muscle fibers, different vectors, different connections to the core, to the rest of the legs, to the lower extremity. This also, when you do it in standing, has a big connection to where your center of mass is on your foot, and even foot stability and foot mobility and general balance and coordination and control. One of the variations is how far away the dumbbells are from your body. When the dumbbells are more on your shoulders, like a true front rack, that's actually going to be easier. The farther you move the dumbbell away from your shoulder, the change in the lever arm that is created makes it a lot more difficult. So you might have to decrease the weight. But the great part is it also really targets the serratus anterior even more when you have that little bit longer lever in that straight shoulder flexion, more of almost like a waiter's carry position. You can do with 2 dumbbells, 1 in each hand. You can do with a goblet. One of the key components of it, though, is to make sure that your humerus has a little bit of external rotation with it. So if you're going to use a goblet, like a kettlebell or 1 dumbbell in the center, you really want to continually think about sending your elbows towards each other and pulling the bell or pulling the dumbbell apart with your hands. This connection between external rotation and the serratus anterior is through the closeness of where the muscles originate from each other. And so this really helps to connect into that sort of shoulder fascial line. Now, also one of the things is reaching your elbows away from you. Reaching the elbows away from you is a good cue to create scapular protraction. If you just tell the client to protract their scapulas, oftentimes what you see is them tuck their butt underneath them, or shrug their shoulders, or send their chest through, as opposed to actually getting their scapula to move around the sides of their thorax. So cuing a little bit farther away from the structure and cuing externally, sending the elbow away to an object away from them, is going to improve the movement experience. The other thing is making sure that their knees are slightly soft and not locked out so they can shift their weight forward on their feet. Shifting your weight forward on your feet, dropping your chest down, and being upright forces you to prevent this natural tendency to go into a sway back posture to hold the weight up, right? So it should be nice and vertical. This is really where the important core connection comes in. When you maintain the 60% balls of your feet, 40% heel center of mass distribution, with your rib cage stacked on top of you and your sternum relaxed, or your sternum resting on your heart, you are in really great vertical alignment, and this is going to ensure even more so that oblique to serratus anterior connection. You can also facilitate even more core control or more connection into your serratus anterior by adding rotation into the mix. So I utilize this for a client who had long thoracic nerve palsy, which significant scapular winging, and we were able to facilitate much better serratus anterior connection when we really biased the external oblique on that side by adding rotation into the mix. So again, this is what I mean when I say you can create different variations to expose different parts of this connection. Of course, I'm showing you this dumbbell front rack hold in a standing position. You could do it in seated, you could do it single arm. You could do it double arm, you can do it with rotation, you can change the lever arm position, but also you can take the same concept into a quadruped position. You could do quadruped in a cross leg lift, like I've demonstrated in previous exercises. You could do a more neutral position with like a kneeling knee lift or bear crawl position. The emphasis needs to be on spine flexion in that sense, because again, that connects you into your core. It gives the scapula somewhere to move, right, into that protraction and flexion component. You can also add in this rotational component by simply adding a box or a pad or, a yoga block so that their thorax is slightly rotated, right? You can be in a quadruped position, but with your right arm farther away than your left arm. And even though your knees are central, that's no different than this rotational variation of the front rack hold, just in a closed chain position. So you can do for time, you can do for reps. I like to do for time. My general recommendation is usually a 6 to 7 out of 10 intensity and a weight that you can hold for up to 35 or 40 seconds. Once you can reach 35 to 40 seconds and it's not that 6 to 8 intensity on the RPE scale, I would increase your weight and drop your time back down, right? A normal starting time for people tends to be around 25 seconds. So continue to build up your capacity until 40 seconds and then increase the weight.